Hello, this is JP Singh from Arts and International Affairs, and I am here with Minnie Kapur, the curator and owner of the art gallery Under the Mango Tree in Berlin. Minnie, welcome to Arts and International Affairs. And
Thank you.
it's wonderful to have you with us. I'm going to give a very brief introduction and then we'll go through a conversation about your art and your practices. Many you went to the Delhi College of Art, where you trained in painting and then switched to visual graphic arts. And in your conversations, you've talked about how passionate you're about the arts, and that passion continues now in the form of this art gallery. You've been in Germany for 3 decades, and now you're the owner of Under the Mango Tree, this art gallery where you're sitting right now. So it's just such a pleasure to have you with us. I can't imagine how launching a gallery like this wasn't in some ways, many a risky venture for you. So let me ask you first about how did you decide to do this, and what are the sort of risks that you took?
Well, I think, JB, you must have heard a very old saying that, you just jump into cold water and you'll learn swimming. And it was something like that for me about 10 years back. But the seed to start a gallery or to show Indian art initially was sowed in 1998 by a friend who was visiting from India. She was going to the Documenta Castle and she stopped by in Berlin and stayed with me. She's quite a well known artist in India. And she said me, why don't you start a gallery here? Okay, you come next time, we should all sit together. I'll introduce you to the other group of artists I'm working with. And I said, I have no clue, but I would love to see you all again. And this is how the thought had been initiated about 20 years back. And as I told you also, I'm a graphic designer from my first profession. After changing from painting, I went into graphic design. And I started working from home for a long time. As my son was growing up, I wanted to be home when he came back. So this was a time about 12 years back. I started missing the contact with people. We Indians, we need contact. I can't live without meeting people. So that is what I started looking for a space. But when I entered the space, it was, just a reminder of what my friend had told me start an art gallery. It is a beautiful, lovely space. And I said, oh, Minnie, you could do that too here, running your graphic design office and an art gallery. This was my main initial thought.
In the audiences in Europe and in North America are now getting exposed to contemporary Indian arts practices, but they're just getting introduced to it. And you probably found yourself in that same space where people are just being introduced to contemporary Indian art. So in that sense, it's very risky to start a gallery in Berlin and hope that people will relate to this. So in what ways do people through your gallery relate or do not relate, and what are the barriers that you have to overcome to introduce contemporary Indian art to audiences in Berlin or in Germany?
Uh, I I would say yes. It is very difficult to get in the people to be introduced to the contemporary Indian art. This I realized. I started the gallery in 1900 and when was it? 2011, and within the first two or three shows, I realized that I could not manage to get the audience in if I just concentrated on Indian art.
Mm.
There was a very well known gallery, Nature Mode, here in Berlin. And before that, there was another very well known gallery which packed up. Both the galleries packed up within very short period because people were not going in. And I had no experience, JP, and I I can't afford to lose the base of starting something and just letting it go like that. So I switched over to international art.
Mhm.
But I have tried to do it like this, that to keep feeding people about Indian contemporary art, I do try to do one Indian show once in a year at least.
I see.
So it's a gradual education or learning process, both sides, for me and to understand what my clients really would like to have in form of Indian contemporary art.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you decide to take up something like starting an art gallery, what resources are available to you personally or outside of you in terms of the city uh, or place where you're situated in? And what do you wish in hindsight was available to you, which isn't or may become available in the future?
Look, there are a lot of resources available. Yes, I can say that in a way that they're highly expensive courses for you to get into, you know. And when you're starting a business, then you invest more in the business and not in paying 3,000 euros for just getting 12 classes or rounds of visiting private classes. um, it was not possible for me. Yeah, I refused to do that. And then the other resources what are available are, you have a kind of club of galleries, and you can register with them. But then again, it is, you have to be in line with them, how they work, not as you work, and that was the understanding I felt with that club, and I decided not to. I was, apart from my name appearing on their website and my show, there was not much that was happening at that time in that club, and I didn't want just a place for my name. Otherwise, there are magazines, lots of art magazines present here who put up your show, you know. But that is, I think, what I could find out initially. But a lot of things happen, JP, only with your networks. Yeah. And I had no art collectors network. And that is a very difficult thing to approach.
So how do you approach it? How did you do it?
It is just being present at different places, just going out. As I told you, I had no idea of running a gallery earlier. So for me, it was learning by doing. And I definitely, internet was very helpful. I would see, I would try and read about people who collect, what kind of art they collect. But on the whole, anybody collecting Asian art, not just Indian art, also, there are very less number of people and very, very selective, you know. But it takes time to reach these people, and especially you have to bring in a lot of funding, which as a commercial gallery, you don't have so many of funds just to throw around, especially if you are someone like me who has no family background in Germany.
Mm,
It's a foreign border, like a foreign area for me,
mm.
and then people don't support you also, especially it's a very competitive world.
Well,
So
many.
you,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
Berlin has talked a lot about, and I say Berlin as if it's a human being, but as a city and as a place, we hear a lot about Berlin being the new capital of European culture and attracting artists and you know from South Asia, people, famous artists such as Bani Abidi have located to Berlin. So it
true.
does has that movement and Berlin's aspiration for being a capital of world culture in any way intersected with what you're doing. Does that help you, or is that just something that's just happening outside, and it doesn't quite pertain directly to what you're trying to do?
It does help me. I must say that. I have a huge number of artists approaching, and often, and people want to, even if they are very famous people, they're somewhere outside, they do look for contacts in Berlin. But it is not enough. I think what helps the most is to establish your networks, JP, or to have some, yeah, like I think people like Bani Abidi, they have also come with their connections, you
Mhm,
know. Like you might have heard of Natasha Jinwala also. Like these people, they move all in their own connections, in their own rounds.
mhm,
And I think that is where some kind of openings have to happen
mhm,
for gallerists like me who come from, who have just started totally afresh,
mhm.
yeah, and they need to be accepted in these circles. They need to be taken in.
Right. Well, that's very hard because, speaking as an academic, one of the things which has fascinated us the most are the hierarchies of art, and so the sociology of arts practices, uh, and so the world of art that might appear as one of bohemians and people breaking boundaries actually has its own boundaries and symbolic systems, and it's very hard to break in, whether it's the world of opera or art or any other practice. And what you're speaking to in a way is that. So where do you start to get through those hierarchies when you're coming in, somebody such as yourself who's coming from India to a space which is not even the English speaking world. So you're coming into a space where, as you pointed out, the network is going to be really limited. So how do you break into not just having a network, but into these art spaces, which are often going to feature those hierarchies and are going to be very closed?
It is very difficult, JB, you know, and especially I think in Germany, these hierarchies are very difficult to break through. I have been told on my face that, also the gallerists are not, there is no collegial feeling also among gallerists. So you are always in competition.
Mm,
And I do not understand because I personally had an extremely wonderful professional experience in India and even in Germany. When I have initially the first 15 years, I've been working only as a graphic designer and happened to get very good work contracts. So I did not know about this competition, to be very frank. And sometimes I wondered, oh, God, was God working for me? My Indian God was present and opening the doors for me. And somehow in the gallery world, these hierarchies became closed doors, you know, and it is a difficult process, but I don't give up. I keep talking, I keep trying. Yes, there are sometimes humble people also.
mm,
Yeah, one or two maybe you find. And lately I was sitting with a gallerist after a long time, for the first time. And he was also, like we could talk. I think in talking also you learn a lot.
mhm,
Yeah, and how to reach. There is still so much to learn for me. I've learned a lot, but it's all on my own.
mm, mm.
I wish it could have gone faster, but I wouldn't know, JP, like how does it work? For me, I question, this question when you put me, the question is how. my effort could break these hierarchies. No, I couldn't do that. I see them, I don't know, I thought it was more in Germany, um, but maybe it is all over the world.
Is all over the world, and that's beautifully put. That you move forward with a series of conversations and through learning, and your own website describes you as a citizen of the world. So, how appropriate for you to be presenting then international arts practices in that arena, Many. I thought just giving us a really brief tour of your current exhibit, and then again, I don't have to speak here. I can if you like, but
I would like to go through a short display of our exhibition, Indian Storytellers, where we highlight five Indian artists. Four of them are photographers, and the fifth one is uh, uh, Ranbir Kaleka. He works with the photo based art. Yeah, and I would like to show you one or two of the major main pictures, which I personally really am fond of. It is one of this picture by Kop Shiva, who was a policeman and became a photographer, now lives in Bangalore, comes from a village. Yeah, and he takes pictures of that magical moment in a normal day. And this picture is from a moment where the girls in the city of Bangalore, they are going through a ceremony, a ritual.
so let me ask you a question. Why Kop Shiva? What do you like the most about his work, Minnie?
Yeah, what I like the most about his work is how he takes these very short magical moments of life and he preserves them in a photograph. What is happening every day becomes important for us. And like this, we might have, all of us might have seen this visual, but somehow it becomes so special for me and hopefully for others too, that I just wanted to show his work, and especially considering that actually he comes from a village and how important these things are in understanding the life. This is this wonderful work by Ranbir. You might be knowing of him.
Kaleka, yes.
Ran, yeah. And this is called the Urban Utopia. There is so much in it, JP, you would get lost in this painting, And it is a digital painting where he actually collects photographs or he does photographs of his paintings. He's a painter, a surrealist painter.
Mm.
And um, then he brings them together on one canvas and reproduces, and it has its own story. It's I really am very fond of this work also because it at the same time is showing the utopia and that imagination that we wish, but at the same time we are also somewhere in us carrying a devil or something, the feeling of dystopia, of destruction. And, there is so much in this painting to read.
Minnie, I know we didn't talk about this when we were talking earlier. Can you think of moments in terms of the audiences to whom you're presenting where they've had a kind of an aha moment, or they all of a sudden they came to your gallery and noticed something that they just wouldn't have before, or something they thought about?
Oh, yes. Like recently, now the galleries are closed, but I leave the lights on.
Mm.
And I just came to pick up some papers. I do work sometimes in the gallery. And there was a lady standing outside, and she said, "Oh, are you going inside? Can I please come in? I want to see this painting." And she, believe me, JP, it's a long passage inside from the open door. And she came directly to this wall and she said, "Could you please tell me about this painting? It's that, she was a stranger. She was for the first time here, but she said, I've been passing through almost every evening hoping that someone would come."
Wow.
Yeah. So, yes, we've had a lot of such moments. I would also like to show you one very favorite work of mine. This is the work of Manoj Kumar Jain,
Right.
and it is so uh, pure in its content and very raw. And he used to go to really native places in India
Mhm.
just to record the simplicity of life, you know. And this is how he is, it is his project, which has just been, you know, accepted for this next show,
Mhm.
which I told you about, where the government will be supporting it with the art funds.
Right.
This is by Dinesh Khanna. He records color in India. And he has, I have been watching his work over so many years. And with every picture, every frame, the color has its own objective in the frame.
Yes.
And what is commonly seen somehow, again, these photographers, they are taking the moments into their frames, which will always stay.
Yeah.
Like, I think such homes you might be knowing in Himachal also.
Yes.
I know them in Delhi also, but I would not uh, think about it as a photograph.
And then the bicycle standing at the foot of the
Oh,
step.
yes, it's wonderful. It's a fantastic frame. And like this, how there's so much of color, but it is still very minimal.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah,
contrast between Manoj Jain's pictures, which are tonal and yet they're conveying that simplicity, but also the magic of life, versus this
ab-
in which the contrast is with the color and they're suggestive of this movement and
absolutely.
vibrancy. Yes,
And
beautiful.
you were talking to me about the hierarchies
Right.
in art, and this is the picture which would describe, you know, for me, that somehow that doors are always closed. And you have to learn the way to open these doors to reach where you want to reach. And that you can do only yourself. The key is only in your hand.
Yes. I have a question for you. Uh, why the name Under the Mango Tree? I'll be facetious and say first time I heard it, I thought about James Bond, and
Ah,
picked that. Yeah.
yeah, under the mango tree, I'll tell you, I did not want to stay in Germany.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to get back, and then we were talking, and my husband was very smart. He always kept, as most of the men are, I have to say that. And
Wow.
he said, "Okay, Minnie, imagine we will sit under the mango tree and do all our business in India through a mobile phone." And I'm talking about 1996
Mhm.
or earlier. And I said, "Wow, that's a beautiful name, Under the Mango Tree." So I have been operating actually under this name even as a design studio since last almost 20 years.
Mm.
So, and people love this name.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, and I like it too because it connected me to India
Right.
and the feeling of home.
Mm.
And it became my home, I would say. I'm very happy here. And Berlin, a lot of people know about this name and they really like it. It's very poetic.
Mm.
And interestingly, somebody used this name for last documenta for a certain series of talks.
Mm.
And people landed up here in my gallery thinking it is here.
I see. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is, yeah, people. find it good. And me too.
You spoke earlier about how important as an Indian contact is for you, and you mostly spoke of that in the context of bringing up your son, but you've again referred to it in terms of your art gallery. So and you speak of the art gallery as home for you. So is this a sort of a coming home? Uh, is that one way of describing this?
I think, yes, JP, you put it very well. It is coming home for me. I wish I had started the gallery earlier.
Mm,
Art is not just anymore a profession for me, it is a way of life.
mm,
It is, you come so much close, you learn so much about life. And even though these five photographers are not present here, but I am learning continuously every day from their work, because I keep interpreting, and every time there's a new learning.
mm.
Yeah, it's not just a picture which needs to be sold. I wish I was a better salesman, but it is so much more. And you put it very well. I've come home.